Get to your dealer now for the Power and Performance Sales Event. Get up to 7 years of Yamaha warranty protection free. Or earn up to $200 in dealer credit. Yamaha Power and Performance has never been a better value.
Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine. It's March 28th. These are your headlines. Connecticut brought out a bunch of new regulations this week. We'll talk about those. We've had some tumultuous weather this week, which has kind of affected the fishing in a whole bunch of different ways. One fishery that's really stood out, however, has been the smallmouth bass fishing. We'll talk about all that. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England Fishing Forecast.
The Fishing News is sponsored by these fine partners. Check out the latest podcast on YouTube and YouTube Music from the Fisherman magazine as we take a deep dive with the owner of No Live Bait Needed, Jose Martinez, and discuss how it all started and what's in their future.
Before we begin, we've got a few news items for you guys. The first one is all about those regulations in Connecticut. It's too many details there for me to remember, so I'm just going to read them off my phone. For scup, you're going to have an 11-inch minimum size. For boating, recreational anglers, you're going to have a 30-fish limit. If you're fishing from shore, it goes down to 9.5 inches for a minimum size, still with a 30-fish limit. If you're fishing on a charter boat, you're going to have the same limits and everything for most of the season. The only difference is between September 1st and Halloween, October 31st. You're going to have an enhancement. You're going to get 40 fish per angler, still at that 11-inch minimum size. You get a little bonus during the meat of the fall if you're fishing on a party boat. For black sea bass, we get a minimum size of 16 inches with a bag limit of 5 fish. It's going to open up on May 18th, and it's going to close briefly from June 24th to July 8th. Then it's going to reopen, and it's going to stay open all the way till November 28th with the same bag limit and size limits. Pretty similar to last year, just got that little 2-week slot of closed fishing at the beginning of the summer, and everything else, it's the Wild West. You can fish all you want. For fluke, we've got a daily creel limit of 3 fish, and we have kind of a weird thing going on here. So from May 4th to August 1st, you have a 19-inch minimum size limit. From August 2nd till October 15th, when the fluke season closes, you have a 19.5-inch size limit. Now, if you ask me, that's a mistake. I don't know why they would do that. To have a 1/2-inch increase from a Thursday to a Friday randomly in the middle of the summer, I think is just setting them up to have to police a lot of people who don't need to be policed, who are trying to follow the law. But it's just too much for the average fisherman to have to keep track of, and that's not insulting anyone's intelligence. It's just the fact that most anglers aren't checking the regulations every time they go out on the water. So a lot of guys are going to be going out that first week of the second fluke season and probably keeping fish that they shouldn't. Whether or not they get caught is a whole other thing. But if it were me, just knowing what they're trying to do, they're trying to use math to satisfy the conservation equivalence requirements. I would have just left it the same, whether it's 19 or 19.5, and just use the length of the season to satisfy that number. You lose a few days, or we add a few days, depending on which way you go with the size, and would have made it much easier for everyone just to know 2 dates and 1 size limit. Maybe next year they'll see the light on that. We'll have to see. Next up, we're going to check in with Jenni Ackerman. She's learning to fly fish out on Long Island. Check it out. Here she is.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Open Boat. Today I'm up in Long Island at the Connecticut Preserve, and this is a blue ribbon trout rivers. The presidents have been here. The New York elites this used to be their playground for trout. But guess what? I'm here now, and Paul is going to show me how to catch trout on the fly rod. So let's go, because I want to learn how to fly fish, and I want to catch some trout, and I want to take you guys with me. Hi, you must be Paul.
Oh, hi, how you doing? I watch you every week.
Nice to meet you.
I'm so happy to have you here on Long Island.
Thank you. I'm honored. I'm very excited because I've literally never fly fished before in my entire life, and I'm ready to learn today.
Oh, it's a whole new sport, man.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's a whole new sport. You might not want to go back to anything else when you get done with this. So what I think we should do is, let's first, before we put our waders on. We're going to just practice a little casting.
Okay.
All right? So just to get it ready. And I'm going to use this as a 5-weight, softer rod. It makes it easier to learn on.
Okay, good.
Right? Oh, you're going to do fine. It's actually, women are better fly fishermen than men. So the big thing here, Jenny, is not that it's the line. Normally you're surf fishing, you're throwing the plug, and the plug has the weight. In this case, it's the line has the weight. The flies have no weight. So you're actually delivering the line.
Okay.
All right? And to do that, you need actually a little bit of line because it's tapered.
Yes.
All lines are tapered, right? So you need a little bit of line out to be able to load the rod. And a load, all that is see how the rod bends?
Yeah.
And if you let it go, it unloads.
Okay.
Right? And that's basically the whole thing. You need 2 things to do. You need to load the rod, and you need that abrupt stop.
Okay.
Right? So you're not like this, right? It's actually like, do you ever play darts?
Is it like a 10 and 2?
Right.
The 10 and 2.
The 10 and 2, 10 and 1.
Okay.
Do you play darts?
Not really, no.
Okay, have you thrown a paper
But yeah,
out? Have
yeah,
you
I
ever-
know it like throws,
Right,
yeah.
it's like doink.
Yeah.
It's not this.
No,
It's that
you stop it.
and release.
Okay.
And you're doing the same thing with a fly rod. You're stopping and release.
Okay.
Right? So stop, 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 stop. See how tight that loop
Yep.
is? If you go too long, see how open it is?
Yeah.
Right? Stop, stop, stop. Well, it's time for you to learn.
Okay.
Okay. So what you do is you're actually going to start a little low.
Okay.
Because you got the line out.
Yeah.
And you're going to come up, stop here,
Yep.
stop here. See that?
Oh, okay.
Stop.
Gotcha.
Right, just like that. And then lower it down. That's the fly.
So low, bring it back.
Very good, except you need a pause too.
Okay.
So what you do is
Yeah.
you can actually turn sideways and watch it go back and then go forward.
Okay.
You want it to go back and then forward.
Paul showed me the ropes for about 30 minutes on fly fishing, and I kind of have it down. I got more confidence in this skill now, and we're ready to go and get on some fish.
Okay, so now we're testing out this first tidal pool here. Conditions are a little rough with the rain, but we're gonna make it work. And I get to test out my casting with the fly rod here. And there's nothing really happening in this first pond. We're not really hooking into any lunkers, so we're gonna move on to the next one and see what we can get ourselves into.
Oh, there you go.
Oh my
there
God.
you go. Good.
Should I reel it in?
Yeah,
or?
no, pull it on
Pull it?
but don't yank it.
Okay.
Let it- Keep pulling it. Keep it always tight. Keep the rod tip up a little bit.
Okay, I
up
got
a little bit. A little bit. Excellent. Nice fish. Nice fish.
Oh my
Brookie.
goodness.
A nice brookie.
We got a duck in the audience here too.
Okay.
Open
Put
boat
your rod
fan.
tip that way. You don't want to let them get into the grass.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
The duck is chasing him.
That's all right. Okay.
How do you want
Just
this?
slowly pick it up. Unfortunately, I forgot my net in
Oh,
my car,
God.
but that's all right.
It's gonna get all tangled.
Don't worry about that.
You got it?
Oh, he's good. He's good. Oh, he's off.
No! We saw it though.
It's long line release.
It's the duck's fault.
That's right.
We had one.
Long line release.
Oh my goodness.
You don't have to spend a lot of money. Everybody thinks it's fly fishing is so expensive. Fan stall reels are how much? You know?
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to spend a lot of money. And in freshwater, lines are very important. Save the money on the reel.
Okay.
You know, you could have the cheapest reel and it does all the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? In saltwater, yeah, you want a good reel.
Exactly.
Bigger fish, fighter fish, stronger.
Yep.
But spend the money on a good rod. You could get set up for less than $200.
Say no more. Literally, I mean,
No, you need that $1,000 rod.
after
You need
today.
that $1,000 rod. I'm telling you, you deserve that $1,000 rod.
Set the hook.
Do you have one? I think you have one.
Oh, wait, hang on. I think he's off now.
Oh, I think.
Hang on.
Did he still? Wait a minute.
Oh,
Nope. We got him. We got him.
there we go.
Go. There you go.
Bring the rod tip to you.
Yep. Bring him right. He's.
Oh, he's a little, oh, there
Yeah!
we go. Yeah! That's a nice one. Oh my gosh. So this has been a ton of fun. For a first-time fly fisherman, I'm hooked. I hate to say it, but I'm happy to say it, another hobby for me to get into. From black fishing to fly fishing, I'm ready to go. So I want to get another one here, but thank you again, Paul, for showing me the ropes.
Oh, anytime. And yet, look at it, it's just as a different technique. You know, I'm not saying stop the other things, but add this to your quiver.
It's going to get added.
To your quiver.
I'm going to be a jack of all trades in the fishing industry here.
Yeah, that's right.
And this has been a ton of fun, and it's super tranquil out here, and I'm really enjoying my time. So.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm so glad. And it's a pleasure meeting you because you are the one I watch on the Fishing Report.
Thank you.
You know?
So we just wrapped up here on the river. It wasn't the best day with the fishing conditions after all that rain, but I managed to catch some fish, my first fish on the fly, so that was awesome. Paul really helped me out here and really showed me the ropes on how to fly fish and a beginner fly fisherman experience. It was all around a great time, and I'm gonna have to get myself a fly rod and reel now.
And the last thing, of course, is a giveaway, which is ongoing. This one ends on April 24th, and we're going to give away a plug that I made, this Connecticut Yankee dual action swimmer in a pretty cool color. And pretty sure you guys know the drill by now, but just in case, you got to send me a photo of you holding your fish. Can't be laying on the ground. And you got to either send it to danderson@thefisherman.com or text it to the number on the screen. And the main thing is I just want to know the details. So you got to tell me your name. You got to tell me, about where the fish was caught. You don't have to give me the exact GPS coordinates. And outside of that, it doesn't matter to me. It could have been caught in your backyard, kayak, boat, surfboard, on vacation in Tahiti. Doesn't matter to me. Send them in, and on April 24th, who knows, maybe you'll win. We did get a couple nice photos this week, though, a couple contenders. So, definitely the competition is heating up. You still got a whole month, or just about a month, to impress me. Just compose a nice photo, send it in, and we'll see who wins. Moving over to the regional reports now, we'll start things off with the freshwater synopsis. We're going to keep this going for a few more weeks at least. What we saw this week is, we had, again, tumultuous weather really affected the fishing in different ways. So ahead of this big storm we had, in fact, I think we had two pretty good events since our last report. But ahead of this last one, we did see some good bass fishing. Largemouth bass in particular. Guys throwing big baits and jerk baits seemed to do very well. Saw some sizable fish. We got this really nice photo from Garen Crespo. It's a Connecticut fish caught in a gill style wake bait. And that's sort of indicative of the type of bite that often fires up ahead of a storm like this. After the storms, we've had a lot of rain. We've had a lot more runoff going to every lake and pond in the region. That's dropped the water temperatures a little bit, and from what I'm hearing, the bite's been a little slower since then. One bite that's been holding on, though, is the smallmouth bass bite, especially inside the Connecticut River, up inside the tributaries. The bite's been very good, and I've seen some really nice fish coming out of those waters. So those are two things that you can look at as an option, especially as we have more weather coming and see at least two more rain events on the 2-week forecast coming up. So, pick and choose your days, and you may score well. One fishery that's holding up through all of this, though, is trout fishing, and that's probably again because these stocked fish really don't have any built-in instincts. They they grew up in a cement pool, so not as susceptible, at least in my experience. So, that's a tactical change you can make if you have to fish on one of these blustery, windy, rainy days and the bass bite is just not having it. Switch over to trout. They tend to be more aggressive, tend to be easier to target, and, it's a great opportunity to just get out there and bend the rod.
For more than 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing, that nothing says no to fish bites.
Moving over into the actual regional reports now, I did get some stuff out of Maine this week, mostly lake trout, guys out on their boats for the first time of the year, doing some trolling or some jigging, and they're finding some lake trout that are willing to bite, which is no big surprise. It's a great time of year for lake trout fishing. Dropping down into Massachusetts, let's start things off with James Jewkes.
Well, we're getting towards the end of March, and Mass trout stocking is really going off. They're pretty much out everywhere. I'm out here at a local pond myself. On lunch break, taking a little spot in, see if I can catch something. Hope everybody else is doing well. I'd like to thank everybody that came out to the Plum Island Surfcasters show, and I did hear that the Mohegan show was a fun time too. Also, it seems like the Merrimack River hasn't shut off. The pike has been on fire. The carp has slowed a little bit because of the cold, but everything else there is good. Same with the bass, whether it's smallmouth or largemouth, guys are getting them in there. I've checked a couple of the local herring runs up this way, and no herring yet. I'm sure I'll see them in the next couple of weeks. This next moon coming up may bring them in. That depends on some water temperatures and stuff being right too. But anyways, no holdover striper fishing reports that I've got. I didn't really hear of any guys down in Boston either, but they could be saving that stuff for themselves. So really is get out, spend your time on the water and do your thing. Again, thank everybody for coming out over the weekend in that horrible weather. But we have one more show coming up. Maybe some guys will stop by there down at Saltwater Edge, see what happens. And one last thing, I got a little PSA for everybody. If you haven't checked out Dave's editor's log in the April issue, extremely well written and great points of view on that. Please give that a read and make your comments. But other than that, Dave, all is good out here. Just plugging along, and we should start to see some little more action as the weeks go on. That's it from here, Dave.
Now, the main part of Massachusetts, what I call the fuselage of Massachusetts, a lot of trout stocking going on in there, so the trout bite's been very good. A lot of bass action in that same area, and as we've talked about a few times, these ponds that get stocked with trout, a lot of times those big bass will wake up and they become susceptible to being targeted with something like a Huddleston or a big weight bait or something like that. So always something to keep in mind there. As we get closer to the Cape, the bass bite only gets better. I'm seeing good smallmouth action in some ponds in Plymouth, and then some ponds on the Cape too, like Mashpee, Wakeby. A lot of those fish are being caught on deep jerk baits, so like a +1 or a +2 jerk bait. Also seeing some fish coming on jigs and Ned rigs and hair jigs. So you got a lot of options there. Trout fishing on the Cape continues to impress everyone who tries it. It seems like it's almost unbelievable to me how often these ponds on the Cape get stocked, and it just keeps that bite hot, keeps it going. So you have a lot of happy fishermen out on the Cape right now fishing for trout. You can do it however you want, whether you want to go old school and throw a Mepps Aglia, if you want to fly fish, if you want to throw live bait, or if you want to get high tech and throw some kind of a micro jerk bait or something like that. All of these things are going to work. These fish are aggressive and they're hungry, and they are seem to be less affected by the weather than other species. So all those things are good things. On the saltwater end of things, we're really not hearing much in Massachusetts. The one thing that we are hearing some excitement for, other than the first stripers showing up, which is still a few weeks away, is blackfish season. We do see some earlier blackfish in the west end of the canal. I feel like, in my experience, it's been more like the second week of April, so we're still got a little bit of time. But we'll keep an eye on that situation. Maybe they'll show up a little earlier this year. Who knows? But there are a lot of guys that are excited to do it, and with the opening day, now imminent, just around the corner, there's definitely going to be some guys out trying. We'll wrap things up in Massachusetts with an inland report from Roy Lytle.
Hey Dave, Roy Lytle here with this week's Western Mass Report. fishing was really good leading up until this storm that we just got. We got a lot of rain that got dumped out here in Western Mass, in the Berkshires, including some snow. Some towns have upwards of 8 inches or more, which really cooled down the water. I mean, some of the lakes even locked up. As of yesterday, there was a few that I drove by that were completely capped over, iced over around noontime. So that's how much, that's how cold it's been. Fishing really got tough the last couple of days. Like I said, most of the rivers, water's chocolate, and then most of the lakes, water temps really dropped quickly and dramatically. So I haven't taken a reading today, so I don't know, but my guess is they're probably in the mid 40s to high 40s. And the surface, obviously the ones that have ice on them are, even colder. So that's really made things difficult. Trout stocking is still going on, so that's an option. Those freshly stocked trout, they always eat really well. But as far as everything else, especially like bass or pickerel or even the panfish, dark colors in some of that stained water is what I've been throwing. A lot of vibration baits, just to add as much noise, and have that bait stick out in that dark water with those dark colors. So dark water, dark colors, because they actually, you see the silhouette a little bit better. So yeah, I mean, that's all I got. There's, weather report. It's going to warm up, later on this week. I don't know if we're going to get the sun. If we get the sun, this water will warm up really, really quick, especially the muddy water, because that mud particles, they pick up the sun and they really heat up. That's all sand and deposit. So that gets really hot. Those muddy waters get really hot quick. So yeah, I mean, calendar-wise, it should be phenomenal right now, and it was leading up to that just this week, a little downfall, a little bump in the road. But, it's New England, so we're used to this. So we make the best of it. All right, catch you guys later. Peace.
Moving over to Rhode Island now, let's check in first with TJ Kopecky.
Thanks, Dave. Hey guys, got a quick report for you from the East Bay area, a little bit of southeastern Mass, or South Coast Mass. Things have been slow, and I'll tell you, even guys that I pretty much report with, and they let me know they're catching fish, are not catching anything right now. Well, basically they're not out in this crazy up and down weather that we've had, and it doesn't help the fishing. It does, but it doesn't help the fishing. The water's cooled down a little bit. Got some cold fronts. Sunday, our friend Todd was white perch fishing over in the East Bay, and he actually sent me a text letting me know that the guides on his rod were actually freezing up on Sunday morning when the cold front came through. And it was cold, and it just slows the fishing down. It's like you get 2 steps forward and then you get thrown back a little bit. With either the rain, the wind, or the cold. And this week is just no different. They're expecting another 2.5 inches of rain to come in the latter half of the week here. But the weekend does look good, and hopefully it'll warm up the water again. I tried to get some trout out of Lewenbrook Pond in Swansea. No luck, got skunked. I really just saw one fish roll. Not sure how many fish they actually released in the pond, but I didn't see anything, and it was pretty much right before the rain had really started on Sunday. So I had obviously moved into my go-to spots for white perch, and we did pretty well. So I haven't heard much from my friend Matt, who's been fishing in Echo Lake. I know there's bass in there. I'm not sure what this weather did to it, but he didn't get out. I know I'm ready for tautog season to really ramp up, which is going to start April 1st, and I'm also preparing for another Florida trip in the second week of April. So getting ready for that too. I did hear one thing, and it's a tip that might work for all of us. The last full moon that we just had was a worm moon. They call it a worm moon, and supposedly these worms are supposed to come up out of the ground at that time, but if you've been looking on the streets recently after these big rainstorms, you see all these worms on the ground. I normally pick them up and I store them in a like an old Chinese food container or something with a lid on it. I poke some holes in it and I put some soil in it. And that way I don't have to go to the store and buy night crawlers. But I think a best bet right now would be trying night crawlers, because if you're seeing these in the streets and they're washing out from the roads, they're probably in the ponds floating around, and these fish are just feeding and gorging on them. I've seen quite a few around. So, hey, it might be a tip that might help you catch more fish this week or not. So that's all I got for you this week from the East Bay. We'll catch up with you next weekend, and tight lines, guys.
One thing we did see in Rhode Island this week is a downturn in holdover striped bass activity. Plenty of herring running, so it isn't a lack of bait. I would have to think that it has something to do with all this runoff coming into these estuaries. Maybe it's dropping the water temperature, maybe it's messing some kind of salinity up, maybe it's visibility, I don't know. It's kind of hard to even feel that way about it, just knowing how good the Housatonic can be when we have a rain event like this. But it's been pretty much universal across the estuaries of Rhode Island that the striped bass bite has taken a downturn this week. So we're just going to look for some more stable weather. We're going to look for things to kind of even off, and I bet you anything that bass bite's going to fire back up. So for now, you're going to have to finesse them. A lot of guys I talked to actually got skunked trying. So it's just a little bit of a downtrend right now, a little dip in the radar here. But pretty soon, I think that's going to fire back up. So we've got that. We also have tog season opening up in Rhode Island this week, and for a little bit more, a little preview of that, we're going to talk now to Jeff Sullivan. He's going to talk about using jigs for springtime blackfish. Here he is.
What's up, Dave? Hey guys, what's happening? Jeff back with another weekly video. So this week I'm going to dial you guys into spring jigging for tog, and I'm going to talk to you guys about what I use for a setup for jigging, and I'm going to go over my leader material, my reel, my rod, and my jigs. Like I said, I don't keep it complicated. I keep it very short, very simple, very to the point, and it's awesome. It's a fun time. It's my favorite time. One of my favorite times a year is spring blackfish, and I think you guys should give it a shot. If you haven't, don't overlook it. It's literally the best time you can have it your clothes on. It's been a long winter for some of you that haven't fished over the winter time, and it's time to get your line tight. And this is the best fish to get your line tight on. These fish are in shallow water. They're ready to roll. They're ready to eat jigs, and let's do it. So with that being said, let's start with my rod. This is a Tsunami 6.6 Maxell Platinum Series. This rod is awesome. I use it for a little bit of everything in the jigging world. Like I jig for sea bass, I jig for striped bass. I use it for fluke and definitely for jigging for tog. This 6.6 has a lot of backbone, has a lot of power to it. It's got a lot of sensitivity at the tip, so you can really detect those bites. And the most important part about this rod has a long backbone. Butt end. Has a long butt end. It really creates leverage you can put on that fish. You can put it under your elbow. It has a butt extension. It goes past the elbow, actually. It helps you create leverage to keep that fish pinned. This rod retails at $129.99. It doesn't break the bank. You'll have a time of your life with this rod. I love this rod with everything I have in me because it's caught me some fish, and I went on some very, very awesome voyages with that rod. So like I said, if you're in the market for a new spinning rod, that's the one to look at and pick up. Also, my reel setup is a Daiwa BG 3500. I love this reel. This is a workhorse. It can really put in work for me day in, day out. I fish this thing hard. It's smooth as butter. I take good care of this thing. It's lasted me four or five tog seasons, and it feels smooth as butter. I pair that with 30-pound Power Pro. High vis line, as you can tell, I use yellow. I'm gonna have a leader attached to it anyway. So if you guys are worried about, will the fish see that? The fish don't see that. You're gonna have a leader on, so they're not gonna see the color of your line. They're not gonna care about it. If anything, to tog are curious. So if they do end up seeing your line, they'll probably go over to it and check it out. So they're very curious fish. But like I said, your leader is gonna be there. Your that won't even be an issue. It's more for you, for your vision. You need to be able to see your line. You need to be able to know what's going on with your line in case, a tog picks up your jig. You need to know your line's going. It's so much easier to see with high vis line. That's an important tip I'm going to give you guys. Keep that in mind. But that's $139.99 retail. It's an awesome reel. If you're in the market for a new reel, that's a perfect reel. Leader material, I like to use fluorocarbon. I will use monofilament. If I have to, but I like to use fluorocarbon. It's abrasive resistant. There's no stretch, so it holds up in the nastiest of stuff, and it's virtually invisible. So, the lowest fluorocarbon I use is 30. And I'll use that in mussel beds. I'll use that in shallow oyster fields or something. I won't use it on bridge pilings or big boulder fields or rock structure. I'll use like 40 or 50. But yeah, I mean, the most I'll use is 50 in the spring, and the lowest I'll use is 30. But the water depths I'm usually targeting is 6 feet to 40 feet. So that depth range in there, I mean, you'll find fish in structure, definitely. I like to say this time of year, you'll find a rock, you'll find a tog. So, with that being said, with the jigs, another tip I like to give you guys, if you guys use Asian crabs, stack them on the hook. So like, with this hook, for instance, I'll take like 7 or 8 Asians, take the claws off, stack them on the hook there. It keeps the tog there. You put one Asian crab down there and the bite's all good, you're reeling back up. You're missing bites because you're wasting time, reeling up the jig. So put 5 or 6 on there, let them sit there with them and let them, jaw at them, and then you'll hook up. It just keeps them there longer, keeps them intrigued, keeps them feeding, and it also chums it up a little bit. So that helps. And assist jigs, I think I have one on. I'm not sure. Well, we can do it with this one. So this is the Owner Dancing Stinger. It's a 5.0. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It's a 3.0. What I like to do, I know the Jersey guys started doing it a couple years ago. I like to put this loop through. It's just another method for you guys to use for tog jigging, in case because a lot of the times I'll get them on the trailer hook, believe it or not. Sometimes I'll only eat the trailer hook, but that's just another way you can hook up another piece of a crab or more Asian crabs. You can get creative with it and how you want to do it, but just be careful your fingers because, there is 2 hooks here. So, and this is free swinging. So it's not captain friendly, but it's not finger friendly, but is a very effective way. And I call that a trailer hook, or aka the training wheel, or whatever you guys want to call it, or the tog stinger, whatever you guys want to call it. But some days they only hit that. It's crazy. And that's the difference some days. I've got a lot of double digits in just the trailer hook alone. So yeah, keep that in mind when you guys are out and about. If you guys are just picking up tog jigging, or you guys are, finding that your jig's getting stripped real quick, put the trailer hook on, It works awesome. Awesome. But with that being said, guys, I'm fired up. Tog opens April 1st. Give us a call at Lucky Bait and Tackle. We got crabs. We'll have crabs next week. So, yeah, same time next week, guys. Thanks.
Another thing that we are hearing about in Rhode Island waters, I should say, is a great largemouth bass bite. A lot of guys doing it with jerk baits. A lot of guys doing it with big baits. Nothing new. Very similar to what's happening on the Cape. But we're seeing some good fish. Jeff Sullivan, as a matter of fact, had some nice ones this week. And, we have that perch spawn going on too, which is getting those fish fired up. And just make sure you stay out of those trout-stocked waters until April 13th, or else you could end up with a ticket, and you don't want to do that. Head boats, still, I don't think they've even gotten out this week. It's just been so rough out there, but everyone's just kind of waiting to hear that somebody did better on the codfish, so we'll keep you informed on that. Now let's check in quickly with Captain John Lee from JL Charters.
Hey, it's John Lee, JL Charters, Point Judith. I'm out here on the pilot boat. It's March 27th. It's kind of a gray day. I've done no fishing. I've just been working on this boat and working on my own boat. This week, maybe next week, we'll probably start trying for some codfish out here on some of these rock piles. Sometimes in April, some cod will move inshore, and I'll give that a shot. And we'll see what happens. Anyway, talk to you later. Have a good one.
And that's what I have for you guys in Rhode Island this week. Moving over into Connecticut, a lot of freshwater fishing going on in Connecticut right now. Seen a lot more guys chasing largemouth. That Garen Crespo photo that we showed, I'll show it again here, in the freshwater synopsis was a Connecticut fish. And he did that ahead of that storm, just like we talked about then. So, anytime we get these weather events, that largemouth bass bite's firing up, and seeing a fish on a big bait like that is, again, just showing you what kind of aggression these fish show ahead of these weather events. So definitely keep that in mind. I've seen a lot of guys trout fishing ever since Connecticut started this, catch and release only season. It's only done good things. A lot more guys out fishing, a lot more business for the tackle shops. And, the hardcore guys have a whole bunch of new ponds to fish, whether they want to target the trout or they want to go for bass or something else. So it's been, it's just been a win-win-win-win-win situation. And I don't want to beat that to death. I talk about it a lot, but I'm kind of hoping that someone from Rhode Island might be listening, and maybe we can see the same thing happen in the Ocean State, because, it's nothing but good. It's all great things. So, we're seeing that. We're seeing lots of fish taken from the ponds. We're seeing lots of fish coming from places like the Farmington River. We do have some flow issues now and then, thanks to all this rain, but overall, trout fishing's been excellent. Largemouth bass fishing's been excellent. Inside the Connecticut River, talking to Rowan over the weekend, I saw him at the show, and he said that the smallmouth bass fishing in the tributaries has been absolutely off the hook. Some really big fish have been out there to catch, and he also said that even with a lot of this rain, these tributaries just aren't as affected as the main stem of the river, so it's still an option for you guys. So that's one thing you guys can do. Another thing Rowan's been doing a lot of is carp fishing, and we're going to talk to him now about that. Here he is.
Hey everybody, looks like we're switching back to fairly warm weather, which is nice. I'm all for it. And one of the things that's really pushing is the carp that's moving them up into the shallows. So the next couple weeks, I'm really focused mostly on carp, a little on smallmouth bass and some other things, but the carp are really where it's at. The Connecticut River floodplain is going to have a lot of fish moving around. If you're out fishing for other stuff, you will see them. The river level will probably shoot up a bit. Got a fair amount of snow up in the north, and there's some more rain on the way. So I think higher water, the main stem of the river being pretty heavily stained, borderline unfishable, but the backwaters and definitely those carp taking advantage of the afternoon heat and moving up into the shallows and into the flooded woods. That's going to be the name of the game, at least for me and my clients, over the next couple of weeks.
Next up, we'll check in with Captain Mike Roy from Real Cast Charters.
Hey guys, I'm out here working on the boats. Behind me is the Conch and the Pathfinder. Just about done with the maintenance, and we're going to do a sea trial this week. As far as the fishing's concerned, we're ready to start for next weekend, or the weekend after next, I should say, April 6th. It's going to be a lot of stripers that we're holding over in the river. Hopefully over the next couple weeks, the water temp starts to warm a little bit. Those fish will get a little bit more active. There should be alewives in the river, and we should really catch a bunch on soft plastics like the 5 3/4 inch finesse fish and a 7-inch sluggo should be the go-to lures. That's all I have for you. Stay tuned for next week's forecast.
And now we'll stop in at Black Hall Outfitters and get a report from Matt Stone.
What's up everyone, Matt here at Black Hall Outfitters in Westbrook. A lot of similarities this week's fishing report to last week's. A lot of the kind of pre-spring when we all want it to be spring, but it's not quite yet feeling out there. Still holdovers available, still some good bass fishing to be had freshwater wise. You can do well on some hair jigs, big swim baits. I've seen folks doing well on crankbaits as well. Jerk baits, of course, in that cold water with nice long pauses can always be helpful too. Stuff like that is working. Trout has been really good, whether you're doing center pin, fly, inline spinners, small rapalas, things like that. Those are working well. A lot of good trout water to fish right now. Water levels returning to normal after that rain, so we should be in good shape there. And yeah, we're waiting on spring as we do every year, and lucky there's still a lot to do out there until that time arrives.
Heading west from the Connecticut River, it's all the same stuff. We don't really have anything to talk about out in the Sound. You know, it's a lot of guys trout fishing, a few guys doing some largemouth bass fishing, a few guys poking around for holdover stripers, and you know, a lot of guys waiting for the floodwaters to recede a little bit in the Connecticut River, but it doesn't look like there's any end in sight for that. As we get further out west, we are hearing about some striped bass that have, you know, that are not just in the Housatonic. We're seeing them up inside some of the harbors, like Norwalk Harbor, seeing them in many of the rivers. These seem to be migratory fish, the first few, which is pretty exciting. And for a little bit more on that, let's check in now with Max Finch from Fisherman's World.
Hey everyone, Max here from Fisherman's World with another local fishing report. This past week we've seen some stripers caught in our harbor again. You know, they're just getting more and more in our local area. We've seen some actually pretty decent sized fish from like 25 to 35 inches. That seems to be the cooker cutter range. Guys are getting them on soft plastics, you know, small top waters in the morning. There are some herring showing up, so the fish are keying in on them. Norwalk River's been all the way good up to the dam at Wall Street. You know, you can try your luck there. Calf Pasture Beach has had fish. You know, we've heard fish Rhode Island. You know, obviously the mouth of the Housatonic, and then all the way up to Housatonic this time of year, fishing Sullivan's Island up to the dam. SP Minnows is a good lure to try this year to match the herring. Blackfish opens up. We won't have crabs initially, but we will have sandworms and clams. You know, it's been a mild winter, so the blackfish bite could be good. And then the state's still doing a good job stocking our local rivers. The fly fishing only part in the Saugatuck, Mianus, the Far Mill River was stocked. We'll be fully loaded with shiners, worms, and all your trout lures you need. Thanks and good luck.
And that's what we have for you guys in the reports this week. Hope it's going to inspire you to get out there. You know, you got to kind of dodge the weather right now. It definitely feels more winter-like than it has in quite a while. But it does look like we've got some relief in the near future. So hopefully that's going to fire up the fishing. If you're not a subscriber to The Fisherman, I highly recommend you head to our website. That's thefisherman.com. You get a full taste of what we offer. We cover all the fishing from Delaware up to Maine. We have travel pieces that reach outside the region. We do freshwater, we do saltwater, we do offshore, inshore, surf, kayak, fly. It's all covered. It's $29.95 for a year. You're going to get 12 paper magazines sent to your house. You're going to get 26 digital editions sent to your email from April to November. And you're going to get digital access to our other two editions, so Long Island and New Jersey. And you're going to get access to all of our back issues that go back several years. It's the best $30 you can spend in fishing. There's no way around it. If you're still not convinced, though, after all that, at the very least, give us a like and subscribe here on YouTube and hit that little bell thing down there so you get a notification every time we post something new. Appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.